Welcome back to Rules of Engagement. We just talked a little bit about the home economics of how you can develop those fundamentals. Let's talk a little bit about your foreign policy. So a couple of things we're going to talk about today are going to be about harassment. So harassment is something you see a lot in pro games. You probably do a lot yourself. The one thing that's very difficult is how can you tell if a harassment was worth it or not, right? I mean, you can go in, let's say you do a Helen drop. How many probes does it take to make that worth it? Well, everyone is going to give you a different number, right? You talk to Grubby, he'll say, oh, 4 Hellions, they got to kill 7 probes. You talk to someone else, they might say 9, someone might say 11, someone might say, oh, if they kill 3 probes, it's already worth it. I mean, there's numbers off the bat because everyone's doing it based off their experience. I'm going to tell you how you can tell if it was worth it by calculating the cost of the harass and then calculating the damage the harass did. And this is actually not as simple as it seems. The cost of the harass isn't going to be just cost of Hellions because there's a lot of things involved here. But let's just talk about it a little bit. So to find the true cost of harass, what you need to do is you need to add multiple things together. You're going to have to add the units lost combined with the opportunity cost of making those units. So keep those 2 things in mind as we jump into this Flash game. This is going to be Flash versus Oz from the MVP tournament. 2 great players. So Flash is going for a Hellion drop. And again, the 2 things to think about when this is going through, the number of units that Flash will lose, and the opportunity cost of making those units. So, right now he hasn't lost anything. He's killing some probes. It's looking great. We're going to fast forward just a little bit. A great move by Oz there. I want to point out, taking out these pylons. He's still looking to kill some probes. Still hasn't lost anything. Okay, he's lost 1 medevac. Now he's lost a Hellion. Now he's lost... he's going to lose all his Hellions, right? And so we'll pause it right here. This is when the harass is over, right? The harass is done. Now let's talk about the 2 things. We're going to add them together. So the units lost count. If we bring up the little whiteboard here, the units lost is going to be, we'll move it over here, 4 Hellions, right? That's 4 times 100 minerals. And then you have 1 medevac, so that's 1 times, 100, 100. And you basically have 500 minerals and 100 gas lost. That's just in units, right? Remember, I mentioned that the 2 things to combine, the number of units you lost, and then the opportunity cost of not making of making those units. So let's jump back in the game and try to figure out what that opportunity cost is. So let's jump back in the game of Starcraft and look at the situation Flash is in right now. Right now he has very little, except he has some decent infrastructure set up. But there's the one obvious opportunity cost, right? And that's the fact that instead of building that harassing force, well, actually, there's 2 things. Instead of building up the harassing force, you could have been either making economy investments or building up to a timing. Now, building up to a timing, it's hard to tell the opportunity cost there because would you rather have the 4 Hellions in medevac or would you rather have them making Siege Tank, Marine, Banshee? It's unclear. They're both great in timings. So I'd almost say if you're going for a timing, the opportunity cost is actually kind of not even there. Like you're just losing the cost of the units because your timing is weaker because you have less units. But would you rather have different units? Maybe, maybe not. Probably. I mean, I don't know. That's something that is really hard to decide, and overall is not a big loss. The big loss is if you would have rather made economy investments. So right now we can see Flash is on 1 base. That's it. There's no other command center. There's a single orbital. At this point in the game, if he was going for an economically focused build, he would have had his 2nd command center done, the orbital made, and have already made several SCVs out of it. So the opportunity cost there is the amount of SCVs production time that he's lost, right? So we can say, even if he started command center this instant, which he very well might, it's going to take, if you look at, wrong button there. If he builds it right now, it's going to take 100 game seconds to build. Then it's going to take another, is it 30 or 50 to build an orbital. It takes some time to build an orbital. And then, of course, then he can start building SCVs. And he would have already had that done and maybe built about 4 SCVs out of it by now. So he's lost 4 SCVs production time, plus the time of building the command center, plus the time of building the orbital. Altogether on, he's probably lost about 10 SCVs of production time this game. So the opportunity cost there, if he's going for a macro build, you could say would be this amount of money, plus 10 SCVs, say 10 SCVs in production time. Now that's not necessarily lost, because if you weren't planning on making, if you were not planning on making those SCVs, then all of a sudden it's not that big a deal, right? You don't actually need that extra production. If you were planning on making SCVs, then that's a much bigger deal. That's the max potential that it costs him to do that harass. Let's take a look at the other side. Let's rewind this back again, just a bit. Oops, there we go. And let's take a look at the amount of damage the harass did and try to calculate that. So we're going to take a look at the game from Flash's point of view, accelerate it ×2, and we're just going to take a look at exactly how much damage that that harass did to Oz. And now when you're trying to calculate the amount of damage a harass did, you're going to try to find the damage of a harass. You need to add together two things. Oops, let me slow it down here. The workers and units that he killed, and then the economy and tech setbacks that he did to his opponent. So the harass is over here. Let's just pause, or not quite. Oh, this is the next little stage, but let's back up to where we were and talk about just that first harass. So in this point, through here, the medevac dies, the Hellions are all gonna die. Boom, this harass is done. There's another little harass here, but we'll talk about that in a different section. Let's take a look at the units those Hellions killed. 13 probes, right? So that's gonna be, right? He's gonna have killed the 13 workers. Let's bring it back up to here. He didn't really set back the tech at all. So all he did is he killed 13 probes ×50. Actually, let's use a different color for this one. Different color is a little bit easier to see. So this will be the damage that he did. It's gonna be 13 probes ×50, and that's gonna be something 650. Sure, let's say 650. So that's 650 minerals, and that looks, you know, roughly 650 minerals versus 500 minerals, 100 gas, fairly equivalent. But he also sent him back basically 13 SCVs at production time as far as economy goes. So it's gonna be plus, because to recover that economy, he's got to build 13 more SCVs, right? So it's the cost of building them plus the economy setback of 13. We'll say SCVs is shorter. Just that they both build the same rate. Chrono Boost and Mules cancels out, that's rate specific stuff, but we're just gonna say they produce at the same rate for simplicity. Let's do production. There we go. So who got hurt more? Well, I think it's safe to say that if they're both going for macro builds, it looks that the Protoss got off a little bit worse, but it wasn't that actually big of a difference if they're both going macro builds, considering he lost the medevac and the 4 Hellions. Now, if they got away, it would have been a different story, but roughly, it's actually pretty similar if the Terran is going for macro build as well. But because the reason I say that is because then they can both use this extra production time is very important if you're on 2 bases. Now, the key thing here is why you see every Terran do these harasses if they're going for 1 base build is because if you're going on 1 base, the worker production time isn't worth that much because you max out the amount of workers you can utilize on 1 base very quickly. So if you get back in this game, we can see Oz is going to be hurt a lot by the fact that all of a sudden he's set back in his production time, right? Because his economy's been reset a bit. Now this harass probably won't do too much. Let's see what this second harass does. This might change things up a bit. 3 more Hellions. Gonna get 1 SCV kill, 2 SCV kills. Another Hellion comes in here. It's gonna get 3 SCV kills. Actually, that was 4. That's double hit. 5 probe kills for 3 Hellions. That's probably about roughly even 2. And now he's gonna expand. But the important thing here is that they both lost a similar amount as far as production time and amount of resources lost. Production as far as workers go time. But the key thing here is that Flash's worker production time, right? Let's say he had 10 more workers right now. He couldn't use them that much because he's already saturated. Of course, if he expanded earlier, he could. But he didn't choose to do that. Given the fact that he chose to invest in all this tech early, right? He can't utilize that expansion very much. So even though they both came out roughly even as far as, like right now, Flash is a little ahead in food, but his expansion is not quite done yet. And, Oz hasn't been investing. They've both been investing in tech, so it's fairly even. But the important thing here is that Flash got away with teching very fast, right? He already has all these tech units out, And normally that comes with a cost of being behind an economy. But because he did this harass that maybe evened out as far as damage done and damage cost, it evened out in a way that basically put them back on even economy, whereas Flash still has this this extra tech advantage. And so from here on out, Flash has a slight advantage in the game. Oz tries to get something done with his harass, and actually the game's decided right about now when Oz is unfortunately unable to get a good harass trade because he loses. I mean, he lost about, I think, 4 or 5 Stalkers for 2 Siege Tanks, 2 Marines. That's not too good. And then the follow-up attack is a little better, but he's still losing a lot of Stalkers for not that much damage done there. Of course, he does get the tank, but losing all the Stalkers doesn't make it quite worth it. So Flash is able to close out this game. But the important thing there isn't about this game. In fact, I'm just going to close this game because that doesn't even matter. That's not important. The important thing here is to see the process I did to analyze the effectiveness of the harass. You calculate, 1, how many units did your harass, how many units did you lose in your harass? Or how many units did you kill when they tried to harass you? And then also try to figure out the opportunity cost. If they didn't go for their harass, they expanded much faster. How would that have been different? And then lastly, take a look at how much damage your harass did, both in the units plus workers killed. If you kill a Zealot, count that in for the money killed. You kill X probes, multiply that by 50. And then the economy setback as well there as far as worker production time. Add those up and you can see who came out on top after that harass. Thank you guys for watching this section of Rules of Engagement. We'll take a quick break and be right back on with a couple tips and tricks for you guys.